Today, we are investigating naked mole rats. These became a bit of a meme in the late 2000s due to their status as being so ugly they're cute. However, they are among the most unique mammals on this planet, with social interactions more like that of some insects than anything found among other mammals. Check the description for a document with references for the images and research papers I used if you are interested. Naked mole rats are rodents. I have covered a general phylogeny of rodents before in my video on beavers. However, that was a rather simplified version and did not actually include the naked mole rats or their closest relatives. So, rodents are divided into three main clades. The first one is Skeuomorpha, which contains the squirrels, chipmunks, mountain beavers, and dormice. These are largely known for their arboreal lifestyles, at least aside from the more fossorial mountain beavers. Next is the Ctenohystrega, which we will dive into deeper as it includes the mole rats. The last clade is not named but is very large and diverse. It includes beavers, scaly-tailed squirrels, jerboas, rats, and mice. This clade alone contains an astonishing amount of diversity, as it includes the family Muridae, which contains the rats, mice, and gerbils. Muridae alone contains 2/3 of all living rodents, which equals over 1/3 of all mammals. Returning to Ctenohystrega, most of its members are restricted to Africa and South America. The first known divergence is Ctenodactylomorpha, which has two families. The Laotian rock rat, sometimes known as the rat squirrel, is so unique that it is the only member of its family. The other family here includes the Gundies or comb rats, 5 species of stocky rodents that live in rocky deserts. The next divergence is the family Hystricidae or the Old World porcupines. When thinking of porcupines, this is the group that you will first think of. Large rodents with long quills that can inflict serious damage on anything stupid enough to attack them. The next group is Bathyergomorpha. There are 4 families here, although some older sources will only list 3. The first one is our family of interest, the naked mole rats and Heterocephalidae. They are the only species in this family and were moved to a separate family from their closest relatives fairly recently. These closest relatives are the blesmoles or mole rats in Bathyergidae. Looking at these, you can see where the naked mole rat got their name, as they look like mole rats but lack the fur. I should mention that mole rats are neither moles nor are they rats. Moles are not even rodents, although both share a similar subterranean lifestyle, giving them some superficial similarities. As I'm sure you know, rats are rodents, but they are technically only those in the genus Rattus, although various other rodents do have common names referencing rats, like kangaroo rats or bandicoot rats. As we have already seen, rats are not in this particular clade, so let's return to the phylogeny. There are 2 other closely related families to the mole rats and the naked mole rat. Petromuridae only has a single species, the dassie rat, found in South Africa, Namibia, and Angola. The other family in this clade is Thryonomidae, or the cane rats. While this was a diverse and widespread group, only 2 species are still alive today, both found in sub-Saharan Africa. Moving out of this clade, you get to some of the more well-known species of Ctenohystrega. The superfamily Cavioidea has 4 families in it. These include the South American rodents like the guinea pigs, capybara, agoutis, paca, and the New World porcupines. The next superfamily is Chinchilloidea with 2 families. As you might guess from the name, this group consists of the chinchillas and their closest relatives. While they are in one family, the other family here only has a single living species, the Pacarana. The final superfamily is Octodontoidea, with a further 4 families, although these are much less well known. These include the neotropical spiny rats, tegus, tucos, and the chinchilla rats. Many of these lineages of rodents are very interesting, but today we are focusing on the naked mole rats, Heterocephalus glaber. They are the only living species in their genus and family. Fossils from the genus Heterocephalus date back to the Miocene around 18 million years ago, and while no other species has been formally named, there is evidence that this was a different species. They lack the dense fur of their closest relatives, instead having pinkish or yellowish wrinkled skin. Most individuals are around 8 to 10 centimeters or 3 to 4 inches long, but breeding females can be significantly larger. The typical weight range is 30 to 35 grams, or 1.1 to 1.2 ounces, but breeding females can again reach weights of up to 80 grams or 2.8 ounces. Naked mole rats live in the Horn of Africa, being found in parts of Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia. They are fairly tolerant of changes in altitude, being found from 400 to 1500 meters or 1300 to 5000 feet above sea level. Naked mole rats are one of only 2 species of mammals known to be eusocial. The other species is one of the closely related mole rats, the Damaraland mole rat. So, what makes these eusocial animals different from normal cooperative or social behavior seen in many other mammals? Eusociality is the highest level of organized sociality found among animals. Most eusocial animals are arthropods, with the classic examples of bees, wasps, and ants. For most animals, the goal of life is to survive long enough to reproduce. However, eusocial animals do not have this goal, or at least not exactly. In a eusocial colony, there is typically one breeding female, known as the queen, and only a few breeding males. The rest of the colony do not reproduce. This may seem paradoxical if we assume the goal of life is to reproduce. Why would most members of a colony sacrifice their own evolutionary well-being to enhance their queens? However, this is looking at it too simplistically. The reason reproduction is such an important facet of life is that it allows for the genetics to be passed on to the next generation. Now, let's use this lens to look at eusocial animals. Many eusocial insects are haploid, that is, they only have one set of chromosomes in their cells. Most sexually reproducing organisms are diploid instead, where they have 2 sets of chromosomes, one from each parent. For these haploid animals, eusociality may actually be better than having their own offspring, as they would share more genetic material with their siblings than they would with their own children. This haploid explanation does not work for all eusocial animals, however, as not all of them are haploid. I have been talking about eusociality in general, but now let's return to the naked mole rat. They are diploid, so the above explanation does not fit when considering them. In fact, research into the Damaraland mole rat suggests that the breeding pair is unrelated, so their offspring only has normal levels of relatedness to each other. Instead, the prevailing theory for eusociality among these 2 species of mole rats is that the harsh climate in which they live makes strongly cooperative strategies the only way to survive, and these strategies happen to mimic eusociality as seen among insects. Among naked mole rats, there is one queen and 1 to 3 breeding males. The rest of the colony does not reproduce. Different animals do this differently, but among naked mole rats, non-breeding members have elevated levels of the hormone prolactin. Prolactin inhibits the release of other hormones necessary for breeding, essentially prevent ovulation in females and sperm production in males. The concentration of these hormones seems to be directly related to the presence of a queen in the colony. If she is removed, then the hormones return to levels that allow breeding until a new queen is instated. The mechanism the queen uses to enforce this is not well understood. The queen does use physical aggression as another means to try and suppress other females from breeding. She does this to assert her dominance, and she will focus her efforts on larger individuals that could potentially challenge her status. So far, I have focused on the reproductive side of eusociality. However, the other key characteristic of this type of social behavior is the division of labor. Different individuals will have different roles within the colony. The queen's role is to breed, but other members of the colony are workers. These will have different roles based on their size and the needs of the colony. Larger individuals often act as soldiers, defending the colony, while smaller ones may focus on digging or maintaining tunnels, foraging for food, or caring for the queen's young. Now, despite my talk about genetics earlier, naked mole rat colonies still often become inbred. To facilitate gene flow and prevent deformities due to successive generations of inbreeding, there is one more role among the workers, the disperser. These individuals are often quite distinct from the other members of their colony, both in appearance and in behavior. They have generous fat reserves to help them make the long journey over land to find a new colony, and will actively seek to escape the burrows of their birth, and will not show a willingness to cooperate with members of their birth colony. They are capable of breeding, but show no interest in breeding with the queen of their birth colony. Instead, they will attempt to become one of the breeding males of a different colony. This task is helped as naked mole rat queens will prefer to take a mate from a different colony when one is available. Aside from the dispersers, different colonies do not mix. In laboratory conditions, if different colonies meet, then they will attack each other. In the wild, naked mole rats may try to expand their territory by invading neighboring colonies. During these raids, the invaders may kidnap pups. They will take them back to their own nests and will incorporate them into their own colony, effectively bolstering their own workforce. Colonies tend to have about 75 to 80 individuals, but occasionally can grow as large as 300. Many of their adaptations are related to their fossorial lifestyle. Naked mole rats live in a complex network of underground tunnels. These burrows are about 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches wide, can be 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles long, and 2 meters or 6.5 feet below the surface. The tunnels connect larger rooms called chambers, and the various chambers have their specific purposes, such as storing food, raising young, or disposing of waste. Naked mole rats will close disused tunnels, sealing them off if they have no further need of them for movement or access to food. In this way, none of the tunnel network becomes redundant or difficult to maintain as it expands over time. They tunnel by using their large front teeth to excavate the earth and then their forelimbs to move the soil behind them. Like with all rodents, these teeth constantly grow throughout their life and so cannot be worn away by doing this. They can close their mouth while these teeth are protruding, and they do this while tunneling to prevent soil from going into their mouth. Their jaws have very strong muscles, and about a quarter of their total musculature is used to keep their mouth shut as they dig. Digging is a cooperative task, with the front animals breaking through the earth and then those behind them sweeping it through the tunnels. This activity leaves molehill-like mounds on the surface. While they don't have fur, they do still have some hair, and what they have retained helps them underground. The hairs around their mouth filter out dirt and dust while they are eating, and the hairs between their toes help them when sweeping the excess dirt out of the tunnel. An adaptation that is harder to observe is their tolerance for oxygen deprivation. They have an extremely efficient respiratory system. Their lungs may be underdeveloped compared to other mammals, but their red blood cells have a much higher affinity for binding oxygen. This means that the oxygen they do receive is used a lot more effectively compared to other mammals. Naked mole rats can live with no ill effects in an atmosphere of 20% oxygen and 80% carbon dioxide. They can survive in oxygen levels lower than this for extended periods of time, up to 5 hours with only 5% oxygen, and even 18 minutes with absolutely no oxygen. When there is no oxygen, naked mole rats start to convert fructose to lactic acid, but it is not known how they do not suffer tissue damage from the built-up acid. To assist with living in these low oxygen environments, naked mole rats have a heart rate much lower than other rodents of a comparable size. Their resting heart rate is around 250 beats per minute, which may sound high compared to humans, but compare this to mice, which have around 700 beats per minute, and you can get an idea of how low that truly is. As you might expect for an animal that spends its life underground, naked mole rats have very poor vision. Their eyes are tiny and so they are nearly blind. Additionally, they have no external ears, so their hearing is also poor. Instead, they rely on touch to navigate through their tunnels. They have whiskers all over their body, but especially around their face and tail to detect vibrations and enhance their sense of touch. Naked mole rats mostly eat roots, tubers and bulbs found underground. These tubers are typically very large and can weigh as much as 1,000 times the weight of a naked mole rat. Food is relatively scarce in their habitat, so they have to make the most of a tuber when they find one. A single tuber can last for months or even years. Naked mole rats enable this by eating it from the inside but leaving the outer surface intact. This allows the tuber to regenerate, meaning it can provide much more food for longer than it otherwise could. Naked mole rats have symbiotic bacteria in their intestines to help them break down the tough cellulose of this diet and converting it into fatty acids. When a worker finds a new source of food, they use special vocalizations on their way back to the nest. Once they reach the nest, they would display the food they retrieved, spreading its scent throughout the nest. When going to get food, other colony members take the same route the scout used to return to the nest, even when there is a more direct route, suggesting that they are following a scent trail left by the scout. Naked mole rats are the longest lived rodents in the world. They can live at least 30 years and in some cases can get to 37 years. For comparison, The second longest lived rodent is the much larger crested porcupines, which only get to around 27 years old. This size difference is interesting, as smaller animals typically have shorter lifespans. Many of their adaptations make naked mole rats highly resilient to a variety of conditions. The tolerance to low amounts of oxygen helps, but there are a variety of other factors that also contribute to this. Naked mole rats have been proven to have similar levels of DNA repair to humans, and far more than the much shorter-lived house mouse. DNA deteriorates as it ages, but DNA repair is the process by which the deteriorating strands are repaired or replaced. Higher levels of DNA repair is required for a longer lifespan, such as that seen in the naked mole rats. Naked mole rats are also highly resistant to some diseases, and most notably cancer. This has resulted in a lot of research trying to work out if naked mole rats hold the secret for the cure to cancer. Ultimately, this seems unlikely, but it is still a fascinating part of their physiology. It is still not entirely clear what this resistance is due to, but in researching it, several unique traits of naked mole rats have been discovered that may be the cause. They have an overcrowding gene to prevent or slow cell division. This would impact the proliferation of cancer, as rapid cell division is how cancerous cells spread. Most mammals have a different gene to do this, but naked mole rats have two different genes for this purpose, possibly giving them an extra layer of protection. In addition to this, naked mole rats have about 5 times the level of hyaluronic acid as most other mammals. Hyaluronic acid is used for healing wounds, but is also used as a treatment for some prostate cancers. As a result, the elevated levels found in naked mole rats have been suggested to give them their resistance to cancer. When scientists transplanted the gene that causes this high level of hyaluronic acid from naked mole rats and into mice, they reported that the mice lived about 4% longer than would be expected, suggesting that whether or not this does give cancer resistance, it at least helps with their long life expectancy. The first cancerous tumours known in naked mole rats were seen in 2016. However, these were in captive-born individuals, so this could be attributed to a difference in husbandry or the captive environment. Naked mole rats are highly resistant to pain, especially on the surface of their skin. This is because the outer layer of their skin lacks neurotransmitters, so it does not send pain signals to their brain. The deeper layers of skin respond normally to pain, so it is believed that this pain tolerance is an adaptation to the high concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere of their tunnels. When carbon dioxide interacts with water, it produces carbonic acid, so without this tolerance, naked mole rats may experience constant burning sensations as the gas turns into small amounts of acid when in contact with their skin. You would think I've listed enough unique features of these highly unusual rodents that I must be running out, but there is still more. This next feature is their method of thermoregulation. In general, mammals are well known as thermoregulators. This is where they are able to use food to keep their temperature within a healthy range, regardless of the surrounding temperature. Naked mole rats, however, are more similar to thermoconformers like reptiles. This is where their internal body temperature is significantly influenced by ambient conditions. This is why many reptiles bask in the sun, for example. They do this to warm up following cooler nights and increase their energy levels. As animals that live underground for their entire lives, naked mole rats do not bask. Instead, they have several other methods of raising or lowering their body temperature. When they are too cold, they will either huddle together for warmth or seek shallower parts of their burrow where it is hotter. If they are too hot, they will instead move deeper into the earth where the tunnels are cooler. I have partially covered breeding habits when talking about their eusociality, but let's talk a little more about the queens. Only the queen breeds. The rest of the colony is non-breeding as long as the queen is alive. When she dies, the females in the colony will violently struggle among themselves until one is able to assert her dominance over the others and becomes the new queen. Once this has happened, the new queen undergoes physical and physiological changes to match her new position. Her body elongates, with the space between the vertebrae increasing, and she will start to release a hormone only produced by the queen. These are believed to make her ready to start breeding, but as I briefly covered earlier, may also suppress the breeding capabilities of other members of the colony. In the wild, the queen typically has 1 litter a year, but can have a second one if the first dies. This is probably due to limited resources, however, as in captivity they can produce a new litter every 80 days. Gestation lasts for 70 days, and their litters contain 3 to 12 pups, although 11 to 12 is the average. The young are nursed by the queen for the first month, but after that the rest of the colony takes over their care. The pups are fed fecal matter until they are ready to transition to solid foods. Interestingly, most mammals have more teats than they typically produce young. This ensures that there is always enough food for the offspring. Naked mole rats, however, ignore this rule with the same number of teats as their average litter size, 11 to 12. This is not really an issue for naked mole rats, however, as even if they produce more offspring than they have teats, as the young will take turns feeding, and both the queen and her pups are fed and protected by the rest of the colony, so the mother does not need to worry about gathering resources. Naked mole rats are listed as least concern by the IUCN. They have a wide distribution and face no known threats. The area where they live has little agriculture and minimal development, which has allowed them to avoid being labelled as a pest species. This means that they have largely managed to avoid impacts from human activities. I hope you enjoyed this video. I think I call basically every animal I talk about on this channel fascinating and unique, but I think naked mole rats are possibly one of the oddest and most unusual animals alive today. Being one of the only eusocial mammals, they take cooperating for the betterment of the group to the extreme. With their tolerance to everything from suffocation to cancer, they are also highly resilient, able to thrive in environments that are inhospitable to most animals. Thank you for listening, and feel free to suggest another group of animals you want to see me cover in the comments.